What is up, Waffle Gang? My name is Mark, and today we're covering some r/am I the butthole. And just to mention, of course, you don't have to be part of the Waffle Gang. It's just a little something fun we created amongst ourselves. So just to say that. And if you'd like to skip the initial waffle, timestamps are in the description and along the timeline below. But if you are new here, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too. A huge thank you to each and every single one of you for coming here every single day to joining me, listening to me read a story or two, and just getting involved with our community. It really does mean the world to me. All your support is absolutely amazing, so thank you very, very much. And with that being said, let's get in to today's stories. Much love, guys. Our first story comes from, am I the stepdad truth? Am I the arsehole for telling my former stepson the real reason I didn't see him much after the divorce? I was married to my ex-wife for 9 years. I came into my stepson's life when he was 4, and my wife and I divorced when he was 13. It's been 7 years since the divorce. I've since remarried and have 2 kids with my current wife. I raised my stepson, I'll be calling him JT, as my own, and I loved being his father. We were very close and I wanted to adopt him, but was constantly blocked by his bio dad, who's a real piece of shit. The divorce between me and ex-wife was messy. We married too young, and looking back, she was a toxic and negative force in my life. I also didn't know it then, but she is also bipolar, which was undiagnosed and untreated when we were together, and it explains a lot of the behaviour I witnessed. I wanted to stay in my JT's life since I basically helped raise him. But my ex refused to let me see him and threatened to tell him I'd been a cheater and abuser if I pursued any legal routes for visitation. At the time, I was newly laid off and unable to afford a good lawyer. I really regret not fighting harder / calling her bluff, but I was afraid she'd turn him against me or even lie to the police and get me arrested for something I didn't do. JT and I reconnected last year. He's 20 now and living on his own and in college, for engineering at that. We've been playing catch up and he's met my wife and one of my daughters. I've given him some things for his apartment, etc. He eventually asked me why I didn't stick around after his mum and I split. I told him pretty point blank, your mum made sure I couldn't. I didn't go into detail with the threats or why we split in the first place, but I let him know she had strong-armed me into being in no contact. JT was understandably furious. Obviously, I didn't expect his mum to have told him the truth, but I didn't realise how in the dark he'd been. I got a call from my ex, I have the same number as I always have, with her cussing me out for slandering her to her son and talking to him in general. This is the first I've heard from her in 5 years, by the way. She apparently hadn't known JT reached out to me. I told her to never contact me again and that her son's a grown man and can do as he wishes. I've deleted her number and talked to JT, who confirmed that he confronted his mum and they fought. He's clearly really upset that she lied to him for so long and feels really betrayed by her. I feel terrible and I'm wondering if maybe honesty or full honesty wasn't the best policy in this situation. I don't want to cause rifts in a family, even if it's my ex. She and I have a bad history, but I know she loves her son. OP wasn't the cause in the rift in this family, she is. Like you said, she strong-armed you into not visiting him, not staying in contact with him. And like you said, if you did try to fight harder or call her bluff, you may have been in trouble with the police if she started talking about abuse and things like that, and that might got you in further trouble. So I can't blame you for what you did in the situation. I think you played it right. And as you said, you didn't go into the gory details of what she actually said about you, which I think, if you told JT that, he might be going in contact with her in the end, which you didn't do, so she should be thankful for that in my opinion. But let's have a look at the comments below to see what they say. Banda says, not the arsehole. Poor kid lost his father figure and you have the right to tell him that's not how you wanted it to go. Seems like his bio parents are pretty trash. Good on you for connecting with him now that he's an adult. Ampex Quadruplex says, not the arsehole, especially if all you said was that she made sure you couldn't and didn't go into gruesome details. It's the truth, and honestly it sounds like he values your relationship. Now he knows you didn't flake, you would have liked to see him then, and now that he can do so on his own, you can. He's not some charity case and he's not guilting you into contact now. You wanted to see him all those years. Olivia Rose 85 says, not the arsehole. You didn't talk to him about it as a child, but now that he's an adult, he has every right to know the truth. Rifts in a family happen. You weren't the cause of it, just brought the truth to light. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't know if she's on medication now, but if she is, just explain she was a different person back then, and he shouldn't judge her on her past. Judge her present. If she's a good mother to him, that's what counts between mother and son. Keep being there for him, and keep it honest, just like you are. And Ardik says, not the arsehole, it doesn't sound like you went looking for him to stir shit. You reconnected because he still wanted you in his life, and vice versa. He'll probably make up with his mum given a bit of time, even if the relationship won't be perfect, at least it won't be built on a lie. Now, what would you do in this situation if you was OP? Would you have fought it originally? Would you have went down that route, or would you have stepped back and done like OP's done? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 1. And our next story is from a throwaway account. Would I be the arsehole for blocking my parents from being involved in my wedding plans because they are not paying? I plan on having my wedding next spring. It's going to be a cultural wedding with people flying in from Nigeria. If you know anything about Nigerian and other cultural weddings, they're close to impossible to do on the cheap, but we're going to do what we can to make it positive and authentic experience without living beyond our means. My fiance's side is Nigerian and willing to help out with some of the costs. It's super kind of them, not asked of them, and not expected of them. Nor is it traditional for the groom's side to help out. Although in 2020, tradition is mostly irrelevant, even if there are cultural dynamics in play. I never asked my parents for any financial contribution to the wedding, but I did reach out to my mum recently to confirm she's not paying a dime. We need to set a serious budget so costs don't balloon. When I got engaged, she adopted this silly, joking tone about how she had to clothe and feed my siblings and I for X number of years, so she's not going to pay a dime for our wedding. I chatted with her recently and it's the same tone, no contribution. It's apparently comical that I even brought it up, and she has no problem being transparent with my mother-in-law that they're not helping. No problem, I'm not entitled to anything, just wanted to confirm that she's indeed serious and okay with the other side knowing that. I'm actively planning out stuff with my mother-in-law, and my mum has asked a few questions, like how things are going, what venue we're interested in, etc. I don't want to share in the planning with her. I plan on just ignoring her questions and respectfully telling her don't worry about it at any inquiry. There's nothing she needs to know because she's not involved in the process, and this is the same approach I would take with anyone else who does not have an active role, groomside and groomsmen, bridesmaids, flower girl, etc, and is just a guest. My parents also won't be involved in any special aspects of the event and will have no special roles / requirements, so all they need to do is show up like everyone else. Would I be the arsehole for basically blowing my mum off at any time she inquires about the event because my parents are not financially contributing and has no active role? Now I'm finding this one a bit of a tough one, but the tone of the post, I'm just judging this basically on the tone of the post, so you have to forgive me here if I sound like totally an arse. But OP doesn't sound fine at all that they're not contributing. Some of the wording in here, the fact that you don't want to share any details, not even just discuss how you're going on with the planning, you know, and just responding with don't worry about it, like don't worry, you're not contributing so you don't need to know. That's how it comes across to me anyway, and I might be totally wrong in saying that. You know, and sure, you may consider your parents don't play a major role in your wedding, like they're not actually doing anything, they're just guests like you're saying, they're just sitting there. But surely you want your parents to see you get married, especially if it's a cultural, traditional marriage. You want them to see that, and you're just sort of talking like they're actually nobodies here. For that in itself, I think you're the arsehole, but you know, I might be wrong here. Let's have a look at the comments below to see what they say. A deleted user says, you're the arsehole. You say you're fine with it, but it 100% sounds like you're punishing your parents for not contributing. The ultimate decision on what your wedding is of course yours, and you don't have to take into account their opinions. But the refusal to discuss anything with your immediate family because they aren't contributing seems pretty petty and immature to me. It sounds like your mum is showing basic caring about your day, not trying to control your plans. Jeff Sang says, you're the arsehole. You never asked for money, your parents never offered, but you sure as hell don't sound fine with your parents not paying anything. For example, what venue we're interested in is a pretty innocuous question that most people would share with any guest as it came up in conversation, but you appear to be actively punishing your mum by withholding this information. Similarly, you seem to want to punish them by not recognising them as special in any way. The groomsmen, brides, flower girl, etc. presumably aren't paid for anything either, but they have roles. Parents traditionally get a role because of their relationship to you, not just because they paid for the event. Lurkin Gentropy says, I see a few you're the arseholes in the responses, and I have to go the opposite way. Not the arsehole. If she basically laughed and blew you off for simply verifying that you weren't willing to contribute anything, then I can see you not saying anything. She may want to know because she's your mother, yada yada yada, but you're not obligated to tell her anything or for them to get special roles. I would say otherwise if she was apologetic. Times are tough, lots of kids, bills, etc. But she wanted to be a part of things. But if she's playing the I raised you and paid X to do it card, then nope, she can wait just like everyone else. OP responds to this by saying, "This is exactly what happened, like it was hilarious I even bothered to check, and at the end of the day I'm not entitled to her pockets, so I had no need for any apology, times are tough etc. It's totally fine, but I don't see why she can't wait for the invite, attend, enjoy and go home like everyone else." Polite Pineapple says, "It doesn't sound like your mum wants a say. It sounds like she's inquiring how things are going and maybe offering help in other ways, sounding board if you need to vent etc. I think you need to work through if maybe you are angry or resentful that she's not contributing financially. No one's an arsehole here." And Rit says, "You're the arsehole. You say you're fine with your parents not paying, but you're punishing them for not paying by intentionally withholding all information from them. They will be parents of the bride. That right there is a special role." And OP replies once again saying, "What's the punishment being inflicted, and what is their special role if they need to show up and have a good time like any other guest who got a regular invite?" Now, what do you guys think of this story? Who do you think's in the right here? Who do you think's in the wrong? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 2. And our next story is from Red Duvet. "Am I the arsehole for banning alcohol at my wedding? Me and my fiance are planning to get married in 2021. She has lots of ideas for the wedding, things she wants, etc. I'm happy to do whatever she wants as I have never been too fussed about a wedding. The only thing I am 100% on is that I want it to be an alcohol-free event. Both of my parents have dodgy relationships with alcohol. They aren't abusive or bad drunks, but they like to drink too much. The same can be said for a number of the other guests. When I mentioned this idea to my fiance, she said that she's fine with the idea as long as she is allowed 2 drinks, one for a toast and then her favourite drink. We agreed that this would be fine. When the idea of an alcohol-free wedding was brought up to her parents, they laughed off the idea and said they would just bring some bottles then. They know I barely drink, they know how my parents can be, and I told them how much I don't want them to do that, but they argued, it's our daughter's special day, we'll provide a drink if we want to. Am I the arsehole for impacting their enjoyment of their daughter's wedding? I have no issue with them drinking on the day, I know they can handle themselves, but I don't want to complicate things by having a list of people who can and cannot drink, then having to tell my parents I don't want them to. Edit to clarify, the toast will be provided for everyone, a single glass of champagne or equivalent for all. Sorry this was not made clear. Also, I will not be drinking. Some people have somehow read that I will be getting drunk while everyone else is sober. Dry wedding or not, I will not be drinking at all. I personally feel if you're going to go alcohol free, then you have to go all the way with it. It's just going to cause too much confusion and hassle for you later on. If you're saying to everyone this is an alcohol free wedding, then supplying champagne and your wife's having her favourite drink as well, you know, it's just not going to go down well, and people will bring their own drinks and they will get drunk. It's that simple, really. And I'm not saying that people are right to do that. You know, it's your wedding. You do what you want at your wedding. Personally, and I say this personally because this is just for me, I'd be so bored at a wedding without alcohol. Maybe that says too much about me, really. Imagine sitting there at an alcohol-free wedding and then the bride on the head table is sat there drinking her favourite drink. Jesus Christ. She'd get daggers at her. Let's have a look at the comments to see what they say. Hipsy Guy says, if you and your fiance agreed on no alcohol, then I would say not the arsehole, but her asking for 2 drinks and expecting nobody else to drink is a bit hypocritical. But let's be honest, if people know it's alcohol-free wedding, they're coming prepared. Edit, your fiance needs to get used to taking your side. That's what marriage is all about. Glittering Joke says, personally I would compromise. A single signature cocktail at cocktail hour if you're having it, no bar, and wine served with dinner, again no bar. This would keep your guests somewhat satisfied and no one will overserved. And yeah, I'd be peeved to see the bride drinking at a dry wedding, and so will most of your guests. You don't openly consume something that you aren't offering to your guests, that's basic etiquette. And something to consider, people will bring their own booze, and then consumption is not monitored and will be more likely to result in overconsumption. John says, you're the arsehole, either the reception should be alcohol free or alcohol should be served. It's an arsehole move to say the reception is alcohol free, except for the drink you're going to have. Coco Popsicle says, you're the arsehole, unpopular opinion on here, and for context I'm British so drinking culture is different here. Though it's your wedding, I personally feel it's unfair to make some people sit through a stuffy ceremony and an entire wedding day without letting them drink to celebrate it, especially when the reason is because you personally feel your guests like to drink too much, not because of religious reasons or health reasons, but on top of that your fiance is allowed to drink and no one else is. Sorry, but that's ridiculous, not to mention awful social etiquette. A wedding is for others to enjoy themselves too, and to be allowed to celebrate you. That includes toast with champagne, wine, with dinner, and however else you choose to celebrate. You can hire security or have people at the bar to turn down overly drunk, disrespectful people. There's a big difference between getting merry at a wedding and throwing up at the shop bar. It just feels like you're punishing your guests because you don't trust them to behave like adults, which is a bit controlling. Additionally, there is an element of you hosting and entertaining your guests at a wedding, rather than treating them like a captive audience. I'd have to decline if I was invited personally. I'm kind of glad to see a fellow Brit there. I was thinking maybe I was an alcoholic or something. Now, what do you guys think of this story? Would you turn up to this wedding if it's a dry wedding, and you saw the bride drinking too? How would you react to that? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 3. And our next story is from Representative Own. Am I the arsehole for refusing to replenish a college trust fund for my deceased husband's affair child? Throwaway account. I, 52 female, am in an unusual situation and need some outside perspective, but want to maintain my anonymity. 18 years ago it was revealed at my husband's funeral he had a pregnant mistress, 40 female. Obviously I didn't just take the woman's word for it and stated that she wouldn't get a cent until there was a DNA test. When it was proven true, I was devastated, but agreed to set up a trust for the child, for college, and agreed to let them live in one of my rental properties in a good area rent-free until her child was 18. She had to pay for the utilities. She agreed, and I made it clear I wasn't going to do anything else for her or the child. I also made it clear that I wouldn't take on responsibility of fostering a relationship between our children, and that it would be my husband's side of the family's job. Fast forward 12 years and the mistress child got sick and needed medical treatment. She didn't have enough money for what insurance wouldn't cover and reached out to me for support. I reminded her what our original agreement was and to borrow money from relatives for assistance. She said her credit wasn't good enough for a loan at the time and she didn't have anyone who she could borrow the money from. When I wasn't budging, she got upset and accused me of being a monster for not helping a child in need. I reminded her that I helped her child by setting up a college trust, but she could use some of that money for the cost if she really needed it. She agreed and her child pulled through. Now the child is 18 and intending to go to college in the fall of 2021. The mistress reached out to me about the trust and was upset when she found out that the amount was much less than what originally was agreed upon. I reminded her it was less because some of the money was used for the medical bills and that I never said I would put the money back in. I also informed her that I was also going to start charging her rent the following year and she would need to pay or move out. I didn't care that she was upset because I was always straightforward about the situation, but now my mother-in-law and sister-in-law are starting to say that it's unfair to the child. I don't see it that way because the mistress had at least 6 more years to figure something out. So, am I the arsehole? Edit, thank you so much for giving out your opinions and advice so far. However, I do see some reoccurring comments and questions, so I wanted to give you more info just in case changes your stance. Number 1, I am American and live in the United States. 2, my husband and I were in our 30s and he died in an accident, so there was no will. We were strong middle class but not rich. My husband has a life insurance policy that named me as the primary beneficiary and then our children. A house that wasn't paid off yet, $20,000 worth of his own savings, and 2 cars that were both in our names but also weren't paid off at the time of his death. His mistress could have sued but it wouldn't have been much. 3, the rental property that I let her stay in was an inheritance from my side of the family that was solely in my name, so my husband had no legal ownership of it at the time of his death. 4, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law don't know the full details, but they know I have enough money to the point where I could pay for the mistress child to go to a decent 4-year school and not miss it, even during this pandemic. They, on the other hand, can't. Edit 2, also forgot to mention that because my husband died in an accident, that I got some money for that too. In these stories, we see it time and time again in Am I the Arsehole posts, is where a family expects one person to do everything while they don't lift a finger. They don't do nothing to help out with things. And it's just absolutely crazy that they do that. And I think you've done more than your fair share here. I mean, you let them stay in an apartment for what, until he was 18, just paying utilities. You set up a college fund in his name. That is absolutely amazing of you, in my opinion. Whether you had to do that legally or not, I don't know, because, you know, American laws and UK laws are like, you know, they're completely different most of the time. But, and I'm sure your emotions were running high at the funeral when you found out, but you found out and then you dealt with it in a logical way. You sat back and, you know, you dealt with it in a really nice way, a real honourable way. And now to me, it just sounds like she's taken liberties. She doesn't want to put any effort in when you can be there to just step in and cough up the money. But that's just my opinion. Let's have a look at the comments below to see what they say. Never Seek to Tell says, not the arsehole. Blows my mind how much family members love to say it's unfair when they're not willing to lift a finger to help. Every time someone mentions it to you from now on, say you're more related to her than I am, you pay. Literally just repeat yourself. Expected to pay for the mistress kid's college? Unbelievable. Dania Daniel says, not the arsehole. She was hoping for a free ride. No judge would entertain her if she tried anything legal. 18 years of free rent plus college money that she pulled from her before and didn't replenish. She could have saved money or fixed her credit after 18 years of no rent. You fulfilled your agreement. You're good. And Gone Baby Thought says, not the arsehole. I'm sure this discovery 18 years ago was devastating, but you, quite honourably, put your emotions aside for the sake of betterment of your husband's child, with conditions. You also responded firmly but not unkindly when confronted with additional requests in the past. At 18, this child is an adult and you have no obligation, nor had you any initially, but for many reasons chose otherwise, to provide anything other than a polite refusal. Your husband is long dead, his estate is settled, and she/they have no claims here. Not the arsehole. Now, what would you do in that situation? Would you originally give them an apartment to stay in? Did she have to? Is that like some sort of law in America where they have to provide? And did she have to provide a college fund too? I don't know. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think, and don't forget to vote on the poll in the description for story 4. Once again guys, thank you for being here today. I hope you are enjoying the stories at the moment. I'm absolutely loving the involvement with you guys, and if you really want to, come join us on Discord. Loads of lovely people in there to get involved with. And never be afraid to comment below. I had a couple of people saying, yeah, this is the first time that they commented on our channel and they was afraid to in the past. Never be afraid. This is an open space. You know, get involved. Please do. And with that being said, I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Much love to you.